So last year, Jauan Jennings, excuse me. Last year, Jauan Jennings started to assert himself in the playoffs. Quiet regular season, good playoffs, great Super Bowl. Restricted free agent. Niners give him the second round tender. He doesn't sign it. He gets an extension for 2 years and rewards him by playing the best season of his career. Jordan Mason had a really good stretch before he got hurt and buried. Restricted free agent. They could tender him, or they could give him a 2-year extension. Do you think that would be a wise move?
To give him a 2-year extension?
Yeah, the Jauan Jennings move.
What's it going to cost?
That's the thing. You'd think, well, why do that? Because running backs are a dime a dozen. You can find them. Sure, but they're also cheap, even on the open market. I figured you could probably get him 2 years, $8 million, $7 million.
He already. I mean, the thing is, Mason already knows the system. He's comfortable there. I think they're comfortable with him, so I think there's value to that as well. And he's a different style of running back to Christian McCaffrey, so it complements. They if they're going to sign him, though, they gotta address how they utilize their running backs and stop, because the way they do it is like they just give McCaffrey all the carries until he's hurt, and then they'll just give Mason all the carries until he's hurt. Then they'll just go to the next one.
Yeah,
like you gotta sub these guys.
It's so weird. I mean, Kyle's been coaching a long time. Bobby Turner's been coaching a long time. Why do they do it this way?
But then they did it. They subbed these guys. Remember with it was early on with Coleman and Mostert, right? They would sub them and Breida. They would sub them in and out. I felt like they did a good job there. But now, like ever since then, they're just like, whoever's the back, that's the guy. He just stays in there until he's hurt.
Well, then the run game coordinator was Mike McDaniel, who does sort of rotate backs a little bit more in Miami than the Niners have since he left. So maybe that's part of it.
Have you or anyone ever asked Kyle or Chris Forrester? Well, maybe you should ask Chris Forrester because he tends to give you better answers, right?
They have asked him, and he's weird. He's like, I always like having a change of pace back and a 1-2 punch. And they always keep going back to Christian, he just hates coming off the field. And that's what they always say. It's like, okay, so
yeah.
So follow up question. So
yeah. There's not many players. I feel like all players want to continue to play, right?
Yeah. You don't think Jordan Mason doesn't want to come off the field? He's like, thanks, coach. I hate this game.
Yeah. Get me out. Yeah, no, I don't.
I would extend him, man. I feel like he's a good running back. He doesn't have he's young. He doesn't have any major injuries in his career. There's not many running backs who run harder than him. I'm not saying he's a top 20 running back in the league, but as a number 2 guy, yeah, you might find a better guy than him in the draft, but he's good and probably not that expensive.
Yeah, and you got to account for the guy that they pick in the second or third round not being that good. So
right. And if McCaffrey goes down again, which is probably likely, then you have Mason and Garendo, which was could have been a pretty good 1-2 punch last year if Kyle had used them in that way.
I'm not a big fan of Garendo.
Why not?
I don't think he has a good feel for the running. I
agree.
It's like he's gonna go for 30 or he's gonna get a yard.
I agree.
But
I think he's kind of interesting as a receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah, you could use
and
him
not just on wheel routes, but potentially screens as well.
Yeah, you can use also, but as a third,
as a pure ball carrier.
The problem is the way they go through running backs, they get hurt so much. Is you at some point you're going to expect that their third running back is going to be their starter at some point in the season.
And the thing about Garendo is he's not really built to be a starter. He wasn't a starter in college. He gets hurt a lot. He's really more of a change of pace back, and the Niners, of course, don't use more than one back at a time. So it's good to have him.
Who was the guy that they signed late in the season? And then they was like, oh, wow, he's actually doing a decent job.
Patrick Taylor?
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they finally let him play in the very end of the season over Debo. And he was like, oh, he's better than Debo. Maybe they shouldn't have been. And then I remember they claimed Israel Abanikanda off waivers and never played him. Why do they do that? hey man, we claimed you off waivers. Oh, you like me? How you got a plan for me? No, we hate you, and we just wanted to make sure that you never played football again because we have an agenda against you. You didn't know us. We hate your
Maybe
guts.
maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they really like him, but they don't think he's a good football player, so they just want to give him a paycheck.
The Trent Taylor experience.
Yeah,
I can't believe Trent Taylor's still on the team. He was in Cabo with them right now. Do you think he had to pay his own way? I'm
he's
sorry.
in Cabo.
He is.